hot topic of the day, Teddy. Tuesday madness in the NFL. Forget March Madness for a moment. Le'Veon Bell goes to the Jets. Odell Beckham Jr. in a trade to the Browns. Great for the back page of the Daily News. Great for the front page in Cleveland. But does it really help your team moving forward here, Teddy? That's the question.
Oh, I think it helps the Browns a lot. The Browns were already going to be a popular betting choice in the markets going into 2019. You put a playmaker like OBJ on that roster, along with all the other playmakers they have, along with the hype of Baker Mayfield. You see it already with the Super Bowl odds. The Cleveland Browns, who've been woeful for a decade, 2 decades, forever, 14-1. The odds really dropping on Cleveland. As for the Giants, I don't know what the Giants are doing. As for the Jets, I don't know. Let's spend $50 million on a running back that's not going to help us win any games. It's like the New York markets haven't recognized that running backs are completely devalued in the NFL marketplace right now. Saquon Barkley on the one side, Le'Veon Bell on the other. Between those two teams, they're going to win 8 games this season? Maybe. The bottom line, they spent a lot of money. The Jets, the Giants, God, OBJ for a 3rd rounder and a 5th rounder, really? From a franchise that said weeks ago, he's not even on the trading block. No way, he's our future. I don't know what the Giants are doing. I don't know what the Jets are doing. And I'm certainly convinced that the win total marketplace is going to recognize the lack of impact for guys like Le'Veon Bell moving forward.
Yeah, when we take a look at the Giants, it's understandable if you wanted to move on, you had to get out of the way, but you just signed the guy to a record contract, one of the highest paid wide receivers of all time. And you're so excited to get rid of him, Teddy. Not only, you get back the 17th overall pick, a 3rd round pick, and then you get also a safety back. But we're talking about a 26-year-old game-changing wide receiver, and you have to eat $21 million in dead money to make it go forward. And the year before you draft a running back, which your game plan would have, from what I assumed would be, get your future quarterback. We got our future running back. We have our future wide receiver. No idea what the Giants are doing at this point, but it's also interesting to see the Cleveland Browns said, can we put in a crystal ball 2 years ago, and we had this same show, Teddy, that betting show, and we said, you know what? The Browns would be 14-1 to win the Super Bowl heading into 2019. We would have laughed at each other, Teddy.
Yes and no. Look, when you're that bad for that long, at some point you accumulate enough draft capital to do something. Look at the Jags. And because it's a badly run organization and they had a bad quarterback, Jacksonville couldn't build off what they put together in 2017. But, the bad organizations don't tend to build off their successes, which worries me about Cleveland moving forward.
It's an interesting point too, Teddy, is when you look at Kansas City, still, according to DraftKings out of New Jersey, still sitting up top at 7.5-1 as a ticket to cash in to win the Super Bowl, and they lose both of their top pass rushers, cutting Justin Houston and also trading D Ford away. So it just leads to show you can make all these magic moves out here, get the running backs, get the wide receivers, but quarterback, Teddy, is king in the NFL.
Quarterback is king when you're watching free agency. The media is going to fixate on the fantasy players, the wide receivers and the running backs. If you're a savvy bettor, you will fixate on the trenches and the secondary for where teams tend to make the strongest move. Matt Paredes to the Panthers. That's an impact signing for a team that lost Ryan Kelly at center. That is a good move. That's the type of move you want to be aware of in free agency. Those key linemen, those Pro Bowl caliber linemen, the pass rushers like D Ford. Those are the movements that matter the most here in silly season.
Talk about movements that matter, Teddy. Gonzaga took a lot of money yesterday, closing around -15. But if you can't shoot and make the three in college basketball, like we're watching right now here in the ACC tournament with Clemson burying three-pointer after three-pointer in NC State, chances are you're going to lose that battle and also lose the war and the game in itself. Zags come in, Teddy, averaging close to 88 points a game and are held to 47 points. That old knockdown, drag him out, West Coast Conference, old school St. Mary's Gonzaga game went down. St. Mary's punches the ticket. Impressive performance out there in Las Vegas for them.
Yeah, really, when we talk about the game itself, it came down to pace. St. Mary's made it a 60-possession game, and that worked very much in their favor. The Zags, who averaged more than 88 points a game in conference play, barely got to half that last night. That has everything to do with the Gales' defense and the Gales' insistence on slowing everything down and not giving the Zags anything in transition. All that being said, St. Mary's flat out stole a bid. They weren't getting a bid. They were not going to get an at-large invite. They stole one last night. The West Coast Conference gets 2. And what does that mean? That means that every other team on the bubble just went down a notch and went down a notch. Most of these bubble teams aren't going to get in because of teams like St. Mary's stealing bids. I'm confident the Gales won't be the only team to steal a bid this week, obviously with all this conference tournament action going on, and give a 1-bid conference an extra bid or a 4-bid conference an extra bid. These can and do happen. That's bad news for all of those bubble teams that are biting their fingers as you head towards Selection Sunday.
Hey, Teddy, real quick thoughts on this. Gonzaga, even though they dropped last night their basketball game in the WCC final, still on that one line for you heading into March Madness next week?
I would think so. But honestly, I mean, seeding is for the public. Point spreads are for bettors. I pay zero attention to seeding. I really don't. I'm going to fill in a bracket. I do. Not when I'm handicapping a game. The Zags certainly look to me on paper to be one of the top 4 teams in the country going in to the big dance seeding process. But then again, make no mistake about it. Seedings that the committee is supposedly, looking at these stats on, they're based on TV matchups. They're based on second-round matchups. They're not based on how the teams actually should be ranked. There are a lot of other factors that get considered, which means the Zags could get screwed and get dropped down to a 2 seed because they are not one of the big draws for college basketball when it comes to TV ratings.
Teddy, when we take a look at the NBA, it was favorites night last night on Tuesday. 7-0 straight up, 5-2 against the number. Bucks, Lakers, and Blazers all roll on the road. The Sixers at home versus the lowly Cleveland Cavaliers, the shorthanded Cavaliers, the poor Cavaliers, the back-to-back Cavaliers. We're within 1 point of the Sixers late in that ball game, but the Sixers end up picking up the win, but not the cover. So one of those 2 teams that did not cover last night. LeBron goes into Chicago, has a big night, gets 36-10 in a 123-107 victory, but public probably had a good night last night, Teddy. The 7 favorites are winning.
Yeah, they all win straight up, go 5-2 against a number, the chalk, last night in the NBA. Spurs made me sweat, but they ended up cashing my ticket as well. And there's so much to talk about here. Let's start with the game. You talk about the lowly Cavs, the injured Cavs. The Cavs have played competitive basketball since before the All-Star break. They've been money winners, consistent money winners for their supporters. They were again last night. They are not playing like a bottom feeder team. And that's common with many of the lottery-bound squads. Memphis is playing well. Hell, the Bulls have been playing pretty well. They didn't play well last night. They got Bron, and Rondo went nuts, and Kuzma went nuts. Maybe getting out of L.A. was the best thing the Lakers could have hoped for.
Teddy, MLB First Look, as we talk each and every day here on SportsbookReview.com's That Betting Show, getting you ready for Major League Baseball on opening day. Sometimes I like the kid here. Major League Baseball First Look today is the Miami Marlins, Teddy, and probably will be our last look at the Miami Marlins this year. 63-98 last year. Over, under in totals this year, Teddy, 63.5, a 250-1 ticket if you want to place that wager for them to win the World Series. Not a lot to love here with Miami as you see the piecemealing of the team over the past couple years to try to build up that farm system. Outfielders Dean, Brinson, and O'Brien don't really bring too much to the table at this point. Still some young guys out there. Starling Castro at second base. We know he's going to produce, but can he produce with anything else? Brian Anderson, a young third baseman that does have some talent. Pitching staff, a lot to leave to be desired out there, Teddy. And also the bullpen not looking too good. The Marlins in a division where the Mets got better. The Philadelphia Phillies got better. The Atlanta Braves got better. Looking for those draft picks, Teddy, down in Miami this year.
Sure. I mean, there are 4 competitive teams in the NL East, and then there's Miami. And that's very clear going into the season. Last year, there was one division like this. It was the AL East, and Toronto ended up being worse than expected, and they weren't a competitive team. But the 5th team in that AL East, the Baltimore Orioles, ended up having one of the worst seasons for their backers in MLB history. They lost more than 50 units. Miami was actually in the top half of the league in profitability last year, despite the fact that they were 63 games, 63-98. You lose 98 games and you're still in the top half of the league. It tells you where you're being priced every day. They finished number 12 at profitability. Small money losers, but not huge money losers. And they had, 24 rookie guys saw playing time for Miami last year. But it reminds me of Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan, all these championships in Chicago. When it's time to own, well, I'm going to go to Charlotte and get a smaller market franchise. And what have the Hornets done in the Michael Jordan era? Nothing. So here's Derek Jeter. All those titles were the Yankees. Well, it's time to own. Where am I going to own? Oh, let's own Miami. This is what you get, Derek Jeter. A rough organization. You talked about some of the young talent. Yeah, there were a couple guys that showed progress last year. Brian Anderson, Trevor Richards and Pablo Lopez, and the staff showed some signs a year ago. But look, this is a last place team before opening day. It's hard to make money in baseball backing last place teams.
Nope, and you see that total over under there, about 63.5. That should be the odds, Ted, on how many fans they get in the seats per game down there in Miami this year. Should be an interesting one to watch. But then again, Teddy, there is no more statue down on South Beach. They did remove that, so hey, maybe that'll add a win or two. We'll see.